Hi everybody, my name's Lily and I'm the book reviewer behind Utopia State of Mind, and today I'm going to chat with you about magical libraries. So, I love libraries. I've mentioned this before a lot on this channel, but I love libraries. I grew up going to a library like all the time. I'm not saying that I single-handedly am responsible for my library putting a cap on how many books you can have out on a time. But I will say that when they introduced that policy, when I was a child, that was a problem for my family. So I love libraries. And so I want to chat to you about 3 magical library books I read recently or that I would recommend, and then some that are on my TBR. Please also let me know down below magical library books. Like, I just love them so much, and I just want to be in a magical library. I really enjoy them, and so I would love to read more books about it. I have that niche interest. I have a lot of small niche interests, and magical libraries is one of them. So the first one that kind of made me think about it is The Book That Wouldn't Burn. So this takes place all within a library, because I know that sometimes things don't take place in a library, and I will talk about that later in this video. But The Book That Wouldn't Burn takes place in a library, and I think the second is, I think it's a trilogy, at least a trilogy. I've read 2 books so far, and I think the second one's like The Book That Won't Break or something like that. But The Book That Wouldn't Burn, what do I even say about this? I am so bad at not spoiling things, and this has so many revelations, so many secrets. It's one of those series where every time I was reading it, I was always shocked at how much would be revealed as well in the series. So basically, I'm going to the synopsis so that I make sure that I don't spoil anything. But basically, you see a lot of different perspectives, but it's mostly centered on 2 perspectives. One boy who has lived his whole life within the library, trapped there, and the second one, a girl who lived out on the dust and kind of starts to be introduced to the library, is how I will phrase that. And so it's definitely a story about truth and the subjective nature of truth, but it just goes off. I don't even know how else to describe it without spoiling it, but they use this seed and just kind of refracts it into 5 million different beautiful rainbow prisms in different ways that this world can go. The conflict, if you really are looking for a magical library story which takes place legitimately all in a library, then this is for you. It has some timey-wiminess. It has a lot of fantasy in it, has a lot of action, a lot of, conflict. It just is so good, and I had been kind of putting off reading it as soon as I got a copy, but then actually I got a copy of the second book, and I was like, okay, I will go back and read this first book. And I cannot believe it took me so long to read. I enjoyed it so thoroughly, and I cannot wait for the third one, whenever it is, honestly. I'll be there. The next one is The Library of the Unwritten, and this one also takes place in a library, and basically the main character, whose name is Claire. Claire is the head librarian of the Unwritten Ring, which is basically every time a writer starts a story but never finishes it, the Unwritten Ring is where that story goes. And so the whole point of Claire's job is to make sure that characters don't kind of embody themselves out of these unwritten stories and then kind of cause havoc. So that's her job. And also the library is in hell. Just throw in everything else in that you might like. But the library is in hell, and so basically a hero escapes from one of her charges, and then Claire has to go around and track this hero down. So it's fun because it feels a little bit meta. It's fun as well to write a book or to read a book about the unwritten kind of failed attempts of books. So it feels so meta, and that's kind of what drew me through the first one. There's a lot of action, there's a lot of intrigue, but then it goes kind of like the other one. The world kind of goes so much further in the trilogy. And so the retrieval goes horrifically wrong, and then there's like angels, so Ramiel is there. There's also like the libraries in hell, so it sort of takes on that kind of aspect at the end. It's a trilogy. What are the other ones? The Archive of the Forgotten and the God of Lost Words. The main character is also pansexual, so like there's just so much, honestly, to love in the Library of the Unwritten, and I would definitely recommend it. At least definitely the first two books. I have conflicting feelings about the third one. I feel like if you read the first two, then you have to read the last one just because it ties up a lot of loose ends for the plot. But I have thoughts on the third one. I still recommend this series though because of how beautifully unique it feels and how much I love book one and book two. So, take that like you will, I guess, because I think that's an interesting. It was interesting for me to think about it and be like, I definitely want to recommend it, but also I have some thoughts about book three, but I still want to recommend it. Those were my thoughts. The final one is The Invisible Library, which doesn't fully take place in a library, but I have to put it in because the main character is a librarian. So basically the whole idea is that they're part of like a secret group of librarians. She's a spy for the library, and they take fiction from different realities. So there's a little bit of time travel and like reality travel. There's also fairies and dragons. There are definitely dragons, right? Yeah, I think so. There's fantasy creatures as well in this one. And so basically the main character, Irene, she is going with her assistant, Kai. They're going to an alternate London to retrieve the books. So it's like the library is the home base, but not all of the action takes place within the library. They're librarians. I love how this idea of like really important books and needing to find them with a variety of kind of places that they've been lost. That just, to me, feels so nostalgic, when you think about the fact that libraries and books, physical books, kind of crumble to dust. The whole kind of evolution of storytelling from oral narratives to the written word to like wherever it's going to go in the future. It just, as a whole, feels really interesting to me. And also, there's a ton of action in this series. Also, if you're in it for like a huge amount of books, there's a bunch in this series, more than just the trilogy. There are 8 books. In there. I've read all of them, and they're 8 books. And so the world and the characters kind of just ends up taking a lot of space and a lot of time to grow, which I really appreciate. I love duologies, I love trilogies, but there's just something nostalgic to me about like an 8-book series. I think it's because I grew up reading urban paranormal romance, urban fantasy, like where you tend to have these series that are like 10 books long, and the character is so different from when they were. So I just love the growth and the evolution you can see not only in the world and the choices and the nemesis throughout, but I just love a good long series, and I love it when like it fully absorbs you. You can read all 8 like now too, so it's great for just plowing through all of them. And as I said, there's just something so nostalgic about really long series. I say this having read all 8. Maybe if I didn't read all 8, then I would feel a little bit more hesitant, just because, yeah, 8 is a bunch for nowadays. But it just felt so nostalgic to like me reading, I don't know, book 10 of a series as a high schooler, and like, getting out all books 1 through 10 and just like obsessively reading them from my library as well. So those are the 3 that I definitely want to mention at the beginning of this video. And now I want to talk about books that are on my TBR. So one that keeps coming up is, I have 2. One that keeps coming up every time I search magical libraries and every time I talk about magical libraries is The Great Library series by Rachel Kane. My friend Laura, I will leave Laura's links below, green tea and paperbacks. Laura and I have been friends for a really long time. You can find old blog posts and like old collaborations and stuff on my blog. And this is one that has been recommended to me by Laura from so long ago. I cannot believe I didn't read it before. And I got to say that it's also it's a series. But yeah, there's also at least 3, I think 4 as well. And so I've heard as well that not only is it about libraries, but there's a lot of politics. There's a lot of like political stuff in the Great Library series. And honestly, as I was planning this video, I put a hold on it. Like, I can't believe it's taken me so long. I understand because I give recommendations. I give recommendations for books to people and it takes them really long time. And I'm like, oh my God, when are you going to read this book? Like, I recommended this to you 5 million years ago. But I myself am guilty of that. So, like, I understand how frustrating it is, but I will read it. And then the next one is The Starless Sea. I think I'm saying this right. Starless Sea. I have not read The Night Circus. That's also something that I need to read. But The Starless Sea and The Night Circus are continuously recommended to me. I finally read Pride of the Orange Tree, which was also continuously recommended to me. So I'm also going to put a hold on at least The Night Circus because that one's like the more hyped one. But The Starless Sea is one that was recommended to me when I was trying to figure out about magical libraries. But honestly, from the synopsis, I'm a little bit confused. So basically, what I gather from the synopsis, and maybe someone in the comments can help me with this, I gather that the main character is a grad student, and so he discovers a book in the library, but he's not a librarian. But there's also like an ancient library secret club. So I'm really interested in this, but I don't know how it will be. As I said, I don't. Let me know down below if you've read The Starless Sea and The Night Circus, which you would recommend I start first. Both of them have been similarly hyped to me. Well, okay, The Night Circus has been more hyped to me than The Starless Sea, just because that one is older and it has like 5 million editions. So let me know though down below what you would recommend I start with. They're both intriguing to me for different reasons. The hype for The Night Circus, very intriguing, but also like I love the idea of grad students. Academia and me have had a complicated relationship in the past, so I like reading books about grad students. And also I like the idea of a secret club magical library too. So I like all of the things that I'm hearing about. I just don't know if I should start with that one or the other one. But anyway, I just wanted to mention two that were on my TBR, and I'm trying to crowdsource, obviously, recommendations from you all. But as well, please give me some insight about both of the books on my TBR. So I will see you in the next video. I hope you have a really great rest of your reading day, week, month, and rest of your 2024 year. And I'll see you in the next video.